Zoe today, and we're going to tap into how we can use our unconscious mind to pretty much raise our levels of happiness, to be happy, feel happy, and what habits that we can use to then implement into our daily lives to then experience happiness. So Zoe is a rapid transformational therapist, and I'm going to get her to share a little bit more about what that is and what that even means with us today. But welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you. It's so lovely to be here. I really appreciate you having me on, and I love listening to your podcast. Actually, I've listened to a few episodes since we booked this in. Thank you for sharing tools and techniques to people for people so that they can increase their happiness, which I love. So thank you. Rapid Transformational Therapy is an incredible modality. It was created by Marissa Peer. So she's a UK-based therapist. And she's been doing hypnotherapy for many, many years. And she basically put together a combination of hypnotherapy, NLP, CBT, neuroscience, and working with neuroplasticity to create this modality. And basically, in simple terms, what this modality enables us to do is to be able to kind of investigate, right? Like, we're going a little investigative journey to see, okay, what is at the root cause of our challenge that, we're presenting with. And through that investigation, we're actually able to interrupt it. And then from interrupting it, we're able to transform it. So it's actually a really effective way of moving forward and not just kind of getting stuck in the story of what we're creating or what we're telling ourselves. We're actually we're literally interrupting that thought process. We're interrupting the meaning behind the story or behind the challenge that we have, and then being able to transform it with what we actually want today. Because what we can find is that so often we hold on to these beliefs that we maybe have had for a very long time, and we don't question, where is this actually coming from? Is this real? Is this a fact? Is this real? Is this a fact? Or is it something that's just, that I've just believed blindly without really questioning?
That's a really good point. I think a lot of the times a lot of us just go through life and don't even question why we do the things we do. And when we understand it, then we can kind of put everything together and kind of come up with a solution of how we can heal from it. So can you help us understand what the unconscious mind, for those who don't understand the subconscious mind and how it works, can you help us understand what it is and how we can use it?
Yeah, so I like to give analogies for this, because what happens is, people like metaphors and people like thinking in different ways, right? So for me, I look at it like our conscious mind, if we're looking at our new phone, right? We've got our latest iPhone 14, say, Pro. We've got the latest version. It's all up to date. It's exactly, it looks all nice and flashy. So imagine that's our conscious mind. Our unconscious mind, though, it's like we have this beautiful iPhone 14 Pro. Yeah, I'm an Apple person, so clearly I'm going with the iPhones. But our unconscious mind is like, we're still operating on like the first ever iPhone that came out. And it's got like really old software. So it's like, it might look nice and shiny on the front. We might look, a certain way, but deep down, if you uncover it all, we're actually operating on this really old software. So our subconscious mind actually controls like 95% of our habits, our beliefs, our thoughts. So it's really the majority of us, the majority of what we do is all operating in the subconscious, right? And our subconscious also likes, some little shortcuts. It likes to make our life easy. So once it knows how to do something, it happens automatically. So driving a car, for instance, when you first learn how to drive a car, you learn it consciously, right? So our conscious mind is there, it's present, it's knowing, it's paying attention. Where do I go? Where do I put my hand? Where do I look? Oh yeah, I've got to look at my mirror. I've got to look behind me. I've got to, put my blinker on. You literally are thinking everything of, every step of the way, you're thinking about it. It's not a subconscious behavior yet. It's literally a conscious thing. And then sooner or later, you start to get the hang of driving, right? You start to get to understand how to drive, and your subconscious mind takes over. It starts to say, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to do this for you. And I'm going to make it easy on your system by making this unconscious so it doesn't take so much energy from you anymore, right? So your subconscious now all of a sudden is taking you home And now, let's be honest, you don't even realize how you got home half the time because your conscious mind is elsewhere. It's not paying attention on the road anymore in the same way that it used to, right? Like when you first,
Yeah.
unless of course you're driving somewhere new, then your conscious mind has to kick in again because now I don't know where I'm going, so I'm paying attention. But when you're driving home from work, say, and you take that same route every single day, your conscious mind has really little to do with what, with actually driving.
Interesting.
Does that
Yeah,
make
so true though. And I know it takes like what, 67 days to actually do like a full, I guess, change neurological, I guess, patterns and pathways in the brain and in the body. Have you experienced a certain type of like habit that you've done for like 67 days or more that has literally helped you, and you've kind of gone, oh wow, okay, now my unconscious mind does this on autopilot and I'm aware of it? Like, how can we use our unconscious mind to create better habits?
Absolutely. There are so many habits that I feel like I've put in place now that I didn't have before, that I have, that you forget that you're even doing before. So one thing for me is my thoughts, right? I used to not pay attention to my thoughts. And I think most people,
Yeah,
when they're not into personal development, don't pay attention to their thoughts because it's like
100%.
it is there, they're always there. You don't even realize what's happening. We have so many of them, and a lot of them are just constantly repeating, right? So for me, it was, using my, I guess, subconscious mind to its,
Yes.
and transforming the thoughts to begin with, because our thoughts really do help us to either have a really happy life or a really shitty life, right? Like our thoughts and ourself is either we're either our best friend or we're kind of our worst enemy. Like, it's like, which one do we want to be? So for me, I used to have really negative self-talk, like really, like it was like really harsh. Like I've never talked to somebody else like that. And once I discovered I guess, the power of my thoughts, the power of my beliefs, I really started to use my mind and repetition and to really interrupt what I was thinking, to really kind of say, you know what, let's bring some conscious thought into it firstly. What is it that I want to be thinking? And then
Yeah.
let's get a habit. Let's actually, it's like now I don't even notice it happens, it's automatic, right? So let's just say I used to think I can't do this, right? I can't do that. I can't do this. Whereas now it's like my initial response is always, no, I can do this. And if for some reason the I can't creeps in, I always can change it around to no, you know what, I can do anything. And find a way to actually make it happen.
Yeah, I
You know?
love that. Yeah. How do we actually like change our thoughts? Because a lot of the times we have all these, even unconscious thoughts, going on autopilot, and they're recycled daily, daily. And then like, how do we change our thoughts? I know a really good, simple way is simply by only letting your body and your eyes and your ears and everything absorb the things that you want to, attract into your life. Like, don't watch the news if you don't want to feel negative, or don't surround yourself with people who are that, or don't listen to music that's going to make you feel down, like that kind of thing. So I know that's like a start, but how can we actually control our thoughts? I know we've got to be aware of them. That's the first probably step.
So firstly, like when they first come in, there's really lack of control, right? Like it's like they're coming in
Yeah.
kind of like I had once heard this book from a coach. Don't remember his name now, but he had said, you can't control the thoughts that are coming in. You got to look at them like spam emails, right? But you
Yeah. Wow.
can
That's good.
control which one you open. Like
Yeah.
so you can control like which thought you actually click on, right? Like just the way you
Yeah.
click on an email is the same sort of thing. So they come in, you can't help that, especially in the beginning. Like you can't, you really are not going to control the negative stuff that's coming in, but you can be like, you know what, I'm not choosing to go down that path today. I'm going to let that go as the way it's coming, delete out. And he actually had a really good point, and I really want to find his name for you, but he had a good point. He's like, he had, the oops, I did it again.
Yeah.
You open
Totally.
anytime you open one of those emails or go down one of those thought paths, you sing that yourself that song to like break your state, which
Mm.
I really love. But for me, it's like first let's get curious about identifying what those thoughts are. Like what are those thoughts coming in? Because a lot of the times we're not aware of them. We
Yeah.
have constant negative thoughts, but we don't even realize that we have these negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So once you become aware of what they are, notice how they make you feel. Like for me, I'm really into like, is it contracting or is it expansive? Like
Yeah.
when I think this thought, how does my body feel in this moment? Like, is it making me feel like I can do anything and it's like, it's making me like want to open up? Or is it making me want to like cringe and like hide away from the world, and contract?
Yeah.
So, and if you're not sure, is it a negative, is it a positive? Like, just notice that. Is it expansive for you or is it contracting? And if it's contracting, it is definitely not a thought that is actually going to be beneficial for you. If it's expansive, great, let's go down that path. So then you want to kind of challenge the thought, because the thoughts that's coming in, if you believe it, right? Like if the thought is actually belief and you're believing in this thought, challenge it. Like, is this a fact? Is this belief actually, or this thought actually true? Like a lot of people, like give me a thought that you might have, Holly. Like, let's play it out for
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I will all the time think, all right, well, I'm thinking like this. Where did this come from? And being like a critical thinker around it. So an example might be, and I mean, everyone might experience this, is that I actually just finished listening to another podcast about this and how, like, it's probably like the number one thing that people will constantly keep having until, like, keep healing and working on it, is caring so much of what other people think or being judged.
Yeah.
So let's say that's a negative thought that's maybe in my head or someone else's head.
So someone might be judging me. If, is it when you do something or when you don't do something, or is it just in general, just all of life? Like, is it a specific moment that you're wanting to do something or not wanting to do something, and then you're worried what people are going to think about it?
That's a good question. See, look, I've got like two things. I think I only care what people think if I don't value their opinion. Like if I value their opinion, that's the only time I care. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Yes. Okay. So if you value their opinion, you're concerned of what they're going to think about you, because you're about what they think and what, So then I'd say, is it a fact that they're going to judge you based on what it is you want to do? Or is that an assumption that you're making?
Well, it's an assumption.
An assumption, right? Like, you don't know that they're not, that they're going to judge you. Like, right? They might, but you don't know that for sure. They might think what you're doing is amazing, right? Like, how many times have you been surprised by someone's response when you thought they were going to judge or be a certain way, and then all of a sudden they reacted very differently, and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, right?
100%.
It happens all the time, right? So you want to firstly look at, okay, is this thought or this belief that people are going to judge me when I value their opinion, is it serving me? How does it feel in my body? So if you just close your eyes for a second and you think about a moment of, something that you wanted to do and you were concerned about someone's opinion that you value, how does that make you feel in your body? What do you notice?
Maybe anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety. What else do you notice?
I guess like a sense of validation.
In terms of confirming that your belief is right? Or in what?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and like knowing if my assumption is right or not, I guess.
Yeah, and you have a belief that it is right? Yeah, it's kind of like they are going to judge me. It's like it validates that, because our mind wants that validation, right? So if whatever we believe is going to seek for that validation. And does that feel contracting to you or expansive, having this belief?
Probably contracting.
Because does it slow you down, or does it?
100%. It stops you like in your tracks from taking the next step.
Absolutely, right? Which is, not the place you want to be, is it? You're a go-getter, Holly, right? So having this belief is slowing you down. It's stopping you in your tracks. So now if you challenge that belief, if you actually, just kind of question it and just say, well, is this a fact? Is this based on a fact, or is this just, have I made this up? What happens then?
I guess then you start questioning yourself, like, about if it's happened multiple times and you know for a fact if it has actually, someone's opinion has affected you, if that makes sense, and you actually have heard their response, which is not what you wanted. And I know the common cause of unhappiness is that you don't, I guess, reach the kind of expectation that you thought right? And that leads to unhappiness. So I think that's probably like the first thing that comes into my mind if that did happen. Now, and if it didn't, obviously I go back and think, all right, well, I've just got to get out of my own head and I'm assuming this. So that's the first thought that I would have, I guess.
Yeah. And then if they were to judge you, like let's go down that path. If they were to judge you, what's so bad about that?
I guess it depends if it's someone close to you,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that it might actually ruin your relationship with them.
Mm.
So it goes down to relationships, right? And the social connection. I think that's probably the biggest thing when I think of it. But again, that's because I value their opinion. It's because they're connected, like they're, you know, someone that I do
of course.
Want to respect.
Absolutely. And if they valued your opinion in return, would they also value a difference of opinion?
Potentially.
Right? Like the thing is with people, you know, if we are following our, you know, when we're on the path of growth, like when we're on this path, right, we're going to do things that are maybe different from what we used to do, right? We're not going to be, you know, you're not going to be the same Holly that you were last week, you know?
100%.
You know, every day we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, right? Which means that your opinions, your beliefs, your life is going to continuously change. It's going to continuously evolve. And so we want to look at the people around us and think, I either can stay anchored here and be the same Holly that I was to keep the people around me happy, or I've got to kind of decide that I'm going to fly and hope that these people who I care about, who I love, who I value, are going to be able to see that, you know, that I'm not doing this to hurt them. I'm not doing this to go against them or what they believe, but I'm just kind of sticking to my path and being true to who I am and being authentic to who I am, right? Because if we're changing what we're doing to suit other people and because we, you know, are worried about their opinions, we're going to continuously be in that people pleaser role, right? We're going to continuously stop being authentic with ourselves and, you know, just try to do what other people think we should be doing as opposed to what we truly want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's about having those conversations with the people, right? Because they're coming from a place of their reality, their perception, their map of the world, right? They don't see Holly's perception, Holly's map. And you might do something that they might judge because they don't understand where you're coming from, right? So I would really highly recommend communication if this is one of, you know, your beliefs. And I think a lot of people out there, I'd say the majority of people have this belief that, you know, people would judge me if I do a certain thing. So really get comfortable communicating what it is and why it's important to you, you know, like, and because once people can see that, they will absolutely be like, yeah, like I understand, go for it, Holly. You know what I mean? Like it's very hard to judge something when you can see where the person's coming from and when you can understand their perception. When you don't, when you don't, you'll judge because you just
100%.
You don't have that, right?
Yeah. So I in this very similar situation, so I went through you know, the whole 5 emotions of, you know, your therapy, right? And we start with fear, and I went through it all like to overcome a certain issue. And this goes back to, I guess, like pretty much what you're talking about is understanding the other person's point of view, that it's just their thoughts, right? Especially when you're dealing with someone who's a narcissist, right? And there's a literal brick wall and you can't get through at all. Like that is huge. So a lot of people who are listening to this thinking like, I literally can't even get my point across, or just take like note, like me being there, you don't have to always get your point across because that person may never understand until the day they die, which is pretty sad, but that's just who they are and built in their brain from their traumas and events that have happened. So I think one thing that I've learned from going through that scenario and that situation and understanding is that it's actually almost got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with them and their opinion and their thoughts. And just because they think that way, it's got nothing to do with you, even though you may feel attached because it's an emotional attachment to that person or whatever's going on. So anyway, thought I'd put that out there.
100%, Holly, and I'm glad you raised that because there's definitely times where people are never going to understand. 100%. And that's where you've got to get really comfortable with not needing their approval or understanding.
Yeah, it's
And
huge.
and it isn't about you. That's
Mm,
a great point, because it's never about you. What we reject in other people is generally what we're rejecting in ourselves, right? Like what
yeah.
we can't accept in ourselves, we can't accept in other people. Like if we can't accept, let's say, laziness in ourselves, there is no chance you're going to accept that in other people. You're going to judge them as being lazy, right? But if you can
Mm,
accept rest as part of like a normal, a normal part of life, then when you see other people resting, you're going to be like, yeah, go rest, enjoy, you need that. So it's a very different thing when we start
mm,
accepting parts of us that we're rejecting in other people. So,
mm.
and I think when you do judge and when you are rejecting people, it's a good sign for you to look in. Oh, it's like, what am I rejecting myself here?
I love that. I love that. And that's generally like the first question that like, I got taught was pretty much to ask yourself that question, is like, what's in me that
Yeah.
I can't accept in other people, or like that I'm attracting into my life because I haven't actually, gone through the process to overcome and heal from it. But what are some happiness habits that you, I guess, do on a daily basis that actually help you to reach your full potential and, live a happier life?
Yeah, great question, Holly. So for me, it's very much a, body, mind, soul thing. I don't feel like
Totally.
one without the other.
Mhm.
So for me, I do make sure that I move every day. I
Yeah,
am
good.
very mindful of my movement. I, listen to music, and I'll dance. I'll
Yeah,
go out in
good.
nature because I think nature is a very important piece of our happiness and our health, right? I'll eat nutritionally. I make sure, like, I do look after what I eat to make sure that I'm fueling my body with nutrition, with, mindfully eating. I'll also meditate daily, because I found that a daily practice is very, very important to keep your mind, in that beautiful state that anything is possible.
Yeah, I love that.
when when you don't have that daily practice or daily intentions, it's very easy for your day to just get by, to just go without you
Mm,
noticing how you're actually
mhm.
spending your time. So for me, connecting to myself, through meditation, through breath work, through
Yeah,
journaling, it's such an important piece for me to maintain and to know that I am the creator of my life. Nothing is
yes.
happening to me. Everything's happening for me and by me,
Mm,
through me. But it's, we are the creators, right? So for me, a daily practice to remind me that I am the creator here. I'm the creator of my life, of what I want out of my life. Then, that just keeps me in that, just feeling happy. Like I honestly, I went from being a really, happy person on the outside, but not on the inside, to like
yeah.
being a really happy person on the inside, despite what is happening around me.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
totally.
and for me, it's also very energetic, right? So looking at balancing my energy, grounding my energy, because, as a therapist, you
Mm,
are working with other people every day. So you've got to make sure that you're in your clearing your energy and making sure that you're grounded in your energy, that you're not bringing your stuff into the sessions, right? So it's super
100%.
important. Yeah, super
I
important.
love that. And let's talk a bit like your past. Like, what was the significant events that actually triggered you to get into this industry that you're currently in?
Oh, great question, Holly. So for me, I really, like, I was kind of having like a midlife crisis in my 30s, um,
Yeah.
when I turned 30. And I had gone from being in a corporate environment, which I was good at, it was paying
Mm,
really well. It was a great place to work, but for me, I knew my whole life, like, I need to be helping people. Like, there's this real, like, need. I don't know, like, it was like this thing within me. As a kid, I would dream about
yes.
changing the world and,
Yeah,
building
design.
communities and like
Mm,
all these things. Like, it was just this like innate like calling, like, I have to be helping people, and mixed with creativity. Like, the two together had to
nice.
be for me. And I wasn't living my purpose. I wasn't
Mm,
following this path. And I was starting to feel really stuck. I was starting to feel really like, I was using disempowering questions, like, which I'll go into if you like, about
yeah,
empowering questions. But
definitely.
I was just feeling really, really stuck, and I hadn't processed a lot of trauma that I had experienced as a kid and
Yeah.
also in teenage life. So I was
Yeah.
carrying a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of maybe resentment, maybe, or like I was just carrying things with me that
Mm,
were no longer serving me, right? I had
Yeah.
outgrown them. I had worked through them consciously, but on an unconscious level, they were still all there. Like it was still very
Yeah.
much taking residence and controlling my life. Because as we said, 5% conscious, 95% unconscious. So the 5% conscious was on board. It's like, I get it, I move forward, I've spoken about it, let's go. But unconsciously, I had all these blocks. I was self-sabotaging, I had so many limiting beliefs, and I was stuck. So I went to a hypnotherapist,
Mm.
and it honestly changed my life. It was like I had received a gift,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like, like when they, everything just kind of opened up, and it was like, dun, 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 and it was like, oh my God,
Revelation. Yeah.
it was like, and everything fell into place at the exact right time.
Yeah. I
You
love
to
that.
be like, oh my God, this is what I need to be doing. This is
Mm-hmm.
how I can help people. This is like, I want to share this gift with everyone like that comes, across my path, because it was such a powerful and such a, I guess, transformative experience for me, that I was like, wow, I've gone through my whole life not knowing the power of hypnosis or the power of like the unconscious mind, to now like actually feeling the changes of it quite rapidly. I was like, oh my God, let's go. I'm all in. So, and everything happened so quickly. And it was so funny because you know how you're talking about not wanting to maybe share some things because people don't want to understand. And
Yeah.
beginning, I was embarrassed to tell people I was seeing a hypnotherapist. I didn't tell any, like, other than like my business partner Sophia and my husband Patrick. I didn't tell anyone because I was really like, I was like, oh, I don't know what they're going to think about it. People don't really
Mm.
know much about hypnosis in my circle, so it was like,
Yeah.
like it felt like I couldn't share that, like, and be open with it because like I wasn't ready for the questions. And then, after we had gone through I had gone and I had changed and I had changed everything I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, I could have shouted it from the rooftops. And then I rolled in RTT and I was like, okay. And in the beginning, I was like, maybe I'll, won't tell everybody what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? It completely shifted for me because now I accepted it. Does that make sense? Like before,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't accepting, I was rejecting it, thinking,
Yeah.
what are people going to think? But once I accepted it, once I believed in it, once I saw the power of it and felt the power of it and saw the changes in me and then in other people, I was like shouting it from the rooftops. Like I'm like so proud to be a hypnotherapist, like I can't like explain
100%.
to you. And then it's like, and then I found my tribe, right? Like I found so
Yeah.
many people in this space and it's like it's the most normal thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, like I feel like that transition of
Yeah. That.
from like really being stuck, really being in shame,
Mm.
to being able to forgive, being able to release that, being able to just stand in my truth, heal the past, heal the trauma, and be able to move forward. Like that doesn't define you, that doesn't
Mm.
have to, dictate your life in a way,
Oh,
but you can use
100%.
that and it becomes your power, it becomes like your purpose. And it was just, for me, it was just, yeah, incredibly transformative.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true. Like just being really aware. And I think once you realize who you are and why you're here and the define, like, I really do believe that once you go on a journey, like if it's, hypnotherapy or whatever it is, right? If you do your own courses and whatnot, you go through your own personal development journey, you come to a point where you've worked yourself enough that you do feel so in line with who you're supposed to be, that things will just click and then you just don't care. You literally don't care about who's going to think, well,
Yeah.
who's this chick putting this message out there? It's so weird. Or you don't care about that anymore. And I know that probably exactly that's what happened with you. And I know for a fact a few years ago, that's what happened with me. It was just like a click. It was like, I just woke up one day and I was like, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you just live every day so internally happy just for who you are and what you have. So I love that you experience that as well. What are some questions that we can ask ourselves? Empowering questions, through the unconscious to be able to reach our full potential.
Absolutely. So again, it's kind of like looking at what are the questions that you're asking yourself now, right? Like become aware of the questions that you're asking first, right? So that you can then switch it over, right?
Mm.
So if you're asking yourself something like, why can't I communicate, right? For
Mm.
instance, you can then flip that to, well, how can I become a better communicator? How can I grow today is a question I really love. How can I grow today? Because it makes your mind focus on growth, right? So your mind is always going to, I feel like I need to backtrack for a bit. So your mind is always going to look for answers. If you ask a question, your mind is going to look for answers, right? So if I say to you, Holly, what's 2 plus 2? I'm not expecting an answer, right? But in your head, you've automatically gone 4, right? Haven't you?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
right? Like your mind needs to answer the question, even though you're not going to say it out loud, right? Yeah, so you can see, right? Like whatever, and this is why Google has become so freaking popular, because if there's a question that gets posed, people want to know the answer. Like their mind won't rest until they find that answer. Like for me with that coach that I want to find, it's like my mind won't rest now until I find his name, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when we ask a question, your mind is going to go looking, it's searching for that answer, your unconscious mind. So when you're asking your mind questions like, why am I not smart enough? Why is this happening to me? Why can't I find friends? Or why can't people just accept me for who I am? When we're asking a negative, contracting question, your mind is going to give you answers to that, right? It's going to keep looking and more and more. And the more you ask that question, the more possibilities and the situation is going to give you to that answer, which is going to keep you stuck, right? Like it's going to keep you there, because these questions are not actually serving you. They're just keeping you stuck where you are. And if anything, going backwards, right? So when we can flip this, when we can actually become aware of the thoughts that we're having, become aware of these questions that we're asking ourselves, we can actually like reframe them to ask empowering questions to work with our mind. So, if we want to ask, how can I become a better communicator, or how can I improve my communication skills? And then to make it more immediate so that your mind's like, you know what, I want to do this today. You can be like, well, how can I improve my communication skills today? What can I do today? And then you can take it in one step further. So instead of like, how can I, how will I, to actually say, I'm actually going to do it today. So how will I improve my communication today? Right? So you can really like start to play with so many questions. Like every question, you can reframe it, right? Like no matter what it is, you can find a positive reframe for it. So and notice how those reframes make you feel, right? So going from things like, oh, why can't I communicate today? Like, or why can't I communicate? To like, well, how will I communicate better today? How will I improve my communication skills today? Just feels like, you know what? I am the creator, right? Coming back to the creator, I am creating, and I have the choice as to how I'm going to communicate. I have the choice to improve that today. Or I can just sit there thinking I'm crappy at it and not take action, right?
Yeah.
The key is to take action, right? We want to take action. We want to make sure that we're taking action to improve those skills.
I love that. And I think that's like, I forgot what it's called. You probably know it. Again, this is something that I'll keep thinking about until I find it. So I'll probably Google it. But the changing their affirmations when I think it was like probably 10 years ago or something now, that they found a new study that if you ask why questions for your affirmations rather than, for example, I love my body, or I love my legs, or I love this, right? You say, why do I have such a strong muscular body and I feel amazing? Like, why do I have $1 million business? Why? Like you keep asking yourself why. So that pretty much just clarifies that your brain will keep searching to find the answer to that every single day. So I think switching the affirmations over, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And asking yourself questions like the whys, the hows, like what can I do? How can I do it? Why is this happening? Right. So and maybe like the present tense, like, if you want to have more abundance in your life, ask yourself, why am I so abundant? Ask it.
I love that.
Like it's already here, right? Like you want to make it, it's already here. It's already happened. And I think for people, a lot of the times it's like you want to, they think that they're lying to themselves, right? So, but asking a question can help your mind find ways that you already are this thing. You already do have this skill. You already have abundance in your life in some way, right? So, and Marissa Peer, who's the creator of Rapid Transformational Therapist, even says, tell yourself a better lie, because you are lying to yourself all day long.
Mm,
with these limiting beliefs. You're constantly telling yourself, like, you don't have this or you can't do that, or, which is a lie. Like, you're actually making all
yeah.
that up, right? So it's like, so in the beginning, it's like, tell yourself a better lie, and soon it will become a fact for you, it'll become your truth, right?
Yeah.
Because whatever we say, it's like, it's a story. Like, everything's a story. Everything is, we're creating it. So we may as well create what we want, not what we don't want, shift our focus.
100%. Shift your focus, your perception, your perspective, energies. I watched a really good TikTok the other day, and it's just like, I love the little TikToks that come. Like, I don't watch TikTok very often at all. I only go on there for research. And it was such a good one. He's pretty much explaining how every single personal development book explains this one thing. And he drew a circle, and in the middle of the circle, it was like your thoughts, your beliefs, who you are, that kind of thing, right? What you want. And all around it was like work, the health, finances, like pretty much every single aspect of your life. And there's heaps of them, right? And the thing is, if you don't focus on what actually matters, is then you're going to put all this focus and energy into things that really actually don't matter, if that makes sense, and not living in the present moment. So that was a really good example of being careful where you put your energy, and your thoughts are energy. So change your thoughts, right? Like we did at the start of the conversation, is changing your thoughts, and then changing your choices, your behaviors, and then your experiences, and then your emotions after that. So do you have a quote, saying, or verse that you currently live by?
I feel like I've got so many, to be honest.
What's your favorite?
Oh gosh. Okay, I've got one that I've got right here. It's one that, I look at every day, so I'll go with this one.
Yeah, nice. I
So
like that.
it says, one life, think beautifully, lead consciously, live purposefully, and love abundantly.
Beautiful.
So for me, it just makes me very conscious, and it reminds me every day to be conscious of how I'm living, how I'm thinking, how I'm leading, how I'm loving.
Yeah, what's
And
that?
so it's a very, it's one of those things that, again, it's with intention, right? Like, if we don't focus, it will go everywhere else. So this really helps me to focus in and be conscious of these things, of what I'm thinking, how I'm leading, how I'm living, and how I'm loving. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. I'm gonna ask you a few other questions, and they're just gonna just whatever comes to your heart. What was the hardest thing you've ever gone through, and how did you overcome that?
That's a great question. The hardest thing I've ever gone through.
Or
I
one
feel
of the hardest?
Yeah, one of the hardest. Okay, I feel like for me it was the trauma that I had mentioned earlier. Like, that was
Mm,
probably, um, you know, when I was a child and also when I was a teenager. And I didn't overcome it for a very long time. I let it
mm,
basically control me. I want to say the
yeah,
trauma defined me, or it felt like it really did limit me,
yeah, of course.
because I was, just I hadn't dealt with it. I hadn't faced it. I hadn't healed
Mm,
it. I hadn't accepted me, as part of this thing, and forgiven. So for me, a lot of it was self-forgiveness, forgiving myself for my role
yeah.
in this part, but also forgiving the people that hurt me.
Mm,
And when being able to forgive them, there's this idea that when we forgive, people think, oh, we're kind of excusing their behavior, but we're not. Forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you.
yeah.
It's really about, because like when you hold that, I guess, resentment or that blame to that person, or think like they've done something wrong to you, but you're holding it against them, like, I'll never forgive you for this, I hate you, or whatever it is. What happens is, it's kind of like we're putting ourselves in the prison cell, and when
Yeah,
we forgive, it's like we realize that, oh, I was the one in there all along. It wasn't them, it was me. So
yeah.
for me, forgiveness is such a big part of healing. And it's something that I
Mm,
continuously do. Just, it's a part of my daily practice, really, because I don't want to be holding anything against other people, because I know that it's only hurting me, right?
yeah,
So
that's it.
yeah, so forgiving them, forgiving myself, releasing that shame, being able to talk about it as well. Like, because I think when we hide something, in the shadows, when we don't talk about it, when we're ashamed of it, it
Mm,
has so much power over us
yeah.
that you know, even if we think we're okay, if we can't talk about it, and I'm not saying you have to go share everything with everyone, you know, but you know, even being able to share it with people you care about, like what happens
Mm,
is it just creates more shame, and it
mm,
makes it bigger than what it is in your mind.
yeah.
The story, the meaning of it, it makes it bigger.
Hmm.
And it's generally, it's not what happens, it's not the event, it's the meaning that we attach to the event.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
so
impact.
interesting. I
Yeah.
love that. No, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. And for anyone else who's listening to this and has, had trauma in their childhood or teenage years, that's like, this, that's pretty much, you hold on to that really to the rest of your life until you work through it. And yeah, the fact that you were able to kind of like, release it, or if you're still working on it, because healing is a journey. It's such a long journey.
Healing is a journey. Like I can honestly openly talk about it. I don't feel like it's only about me though. Like there's other people involved.
Yeah,
So publicly I
100%.
haven't gotten to the point because it's like I feel like it's not just
Yeah.
my story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Talking my story, I'll tell everybody and anybody. Like I've really come to that point.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, it's not easy to do for a lot of people, you know. It's definitely
Yeah.
a thing to do. And it's and you've got to feel ready. You've got to feel ready to want to do
You
this.
do.
Like I remember asking my hypnotherapist, you know, how do you forgive a monster? Like that was my, you know,
Oh,
when it came to like, okay, let's, you know, are you ready to forgive this person? I'm like, well, how do you do that? And she goes, well, if you're asking that question, you're not ready. And it took me about 9 months after that to be like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to do it now.
wow.
You know, and I see my clients even, you know, when they first come in, they like they
Mm.
hold. It's like you don't want to forgive. It's like no, it's like I'm holding on to this, you know, which
Oh,
I
such a
get.
big
I've been there.
thing.
I get that. But when they do, when they come around and they like, you know what, I'm ready now.
Mm.
And it's not for everybody. Not everyone has to do it. This was just me. You know, everyone has their
Yeah,
own path.
worked for you. Yeah,
This
I
is what
love
worked
that.
for me. Um, but and I've seen it, you know, work for my clients as well. When they're ready, it's like it just frees them like to this other level.
Mm.
It's like, wow, like let's do this, you
Best
know, nothing's
feeling.
coming back now, you know, like
Oh, actually, you become a new person and you adapt this new identity, which is just so amazing. I love what you do. Seriously, you're changing so many lives. And just going back as well to like sharing it, like a lot of people, like I don't know about you, but for me, like sharing, I guess, my traumas was like no one actually cares. Like that was my belief that I kept telling myself, right? No one cares. No one actually really cares, because my whole childhood I believed no one actually cared about me. And that literally stuck with me until like probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, people care about me. Like, and then I was ready to start actually going back to the past and uncovering what I went through and everything like that. So I think that's really important. What would you say to someone who kind of like feels like giving up right now? If that's giving up in business, giving up in life, giving up in general.
I'd love to tell them that there's always hope, like there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to do this alone. You know,
Mm.
like, you don't have to do it alone. You're not alone. Like there is people out there, you know, there's support out there. Like if you all you have to do is ask for help, you know, just speak to someone. Like it doesn't matter who it is, someone that you know, obviously don't go to someone who's going to say, no, I don't care about you, you know, like, you know, find the right person, but you don't have to do it alone, you know. I think so much we think that we have to do everything ourselves, you know, we have to dig ourselves out. And in the beginning, when you don't have those tools, it's very hard to dig yourself out of that hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, but there is always hope, you know. I've seen it so many clients have come to me, you know, and you know they were kind of in that hopeless, like given up on life, like what's the point of all of this? And you know, just that little spark of hope, it's like, okay, things can change. You know,
Mm.
things can
Yeah.
absolutely change. Like you can be, you know, from one end to another, you can change your life around quite quickly simply by changing the fact that you believe that there's a possibility out there, you know, that something different can exist for
100%.
you
Oh,
know.
that's the first step, is going, all right, well, maybe there is something different for me, or maybe I
Yeah,
can change, or
yeah.
maybe I don't have to feel like this forever. So I love that. And again, it goes back to awareness, doesn't it?
That's right.
Um,
Yeah. So
yeah.
challenge those beliefs, challenge those thoughts you're having, and maybe just try asking yourself a better question.
Yeah, that's it. You've got rewind this podcast, guys. There's so many questions that you can ask yourself to empower yourself, and change your perspective, which is really important. So I got one more question for you. What is your definition of happiness?
So my definition of happiness is really, it's a great question, is to be, if I am true to who I am, if I'm living my life, in accordance with my values, so that,
Mm,
really much growth is very important for me, transcending, being spiritually connected, being connected to other people, being healthy,
yeah.
and being in service, so like giving back. If I'm living my life and, and having adventures, that's part of my growth. If I'm living my life in accordance with that, in accordance with my values, in accordance with my authenticity, and I'm being true to me, for me, that's happiness. But it's
Beautiful.
also that, yeah, for me, like giving back and service and
Yeah.
people is very much aligned to that. Like if it's, and that feeds into happiness for me.
Beautiful. Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for today. This conversation has just been so good. And I think so many people are going to appreciate that they're not alone. And ask yourself, guys, the questions that we went through today. Be a critical thinker. Think, what can I do differently? How can I change my lifestyle, my habits to become the person I want to become? What do you need to get rid of that you've been carrying with you for way too long? There's some really great questions you can ask yourself. So where can people find you, Zoe?
So they can find me at Eunoia Mindset, so EUNOIA mindset.com.au, or on Instagram at Eunoia Mindset.
Amazing. Is there any last things that you'd like to share or comments you'd like to make from today's conversation?
What I think what's very important for all of us is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
100%.
And I think that, it's very easy for us to be comfortable. It's very easy, our mind, our subconscious mind wants us to be comfortable. It likes the familiar.
Yeah.
So get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think if growth is part of your, is part of your values, if it's something that you're looking to get into, if it, personal development, if it's something that you're already into, I think, just get comfortable being uncomfortable and make it a daily practice, make it, do something every day that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Because
Beautiful.
I think it's the only way for us to truly grow, is to keep
Grow
doing.
and challenge. I love that. Oh, thank you so much for today. I appreciate you and all you do. And go follow Zoe and reach out to her if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks so much for today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Holly. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much.